Kenya's biggest conversation continues. We are going to talk about the politics of the Azimio one-party alliance, coalition, party. Independent.
I think you've got to get the name correct.
It's always confusing.
Yeah.
Azimio la Umoja -One Kenya Alliance Party.
The term alliance does not appear anywhere in the name.
Oh, because I thought it was One Kenya Alliance Party Kwanza.
Oh my goodness.
So it's Azimio la Umoja -One Kenya.
I know what he's trying to do.
Party.
He won't succeed.
Okay, before we say hello to Professor MAKAU MUTUA, who joins us now, let's hear the day's proverb.
Yes. Our last program from...
Proverb.
Yeah, that's a program.
Yes. You
did.
A proverb from, yes, Rwanda. Every crackling hen was an egg once.
Every crackling hen
Yes.
was an egg once.
Yes. Once upon a time.
What about a cock?
Once upon a time, the cockerel was an egg.
Nice.
Once.
Upon a time.
Good.
It made it.
It all starts with an egg.
It all starts
It's the
with
journey
the
of
egg.
survival. You were not eaten.
So this puzzle of which came first, the chicken or the egg? Egg.
I feel at home already.
Karibu sana, Professor MAKAU
Asante.
MUTUA.
Shukran.
Professor is the founding chair of the Kenya Human Rights Commission, but he's here also because he is in that one we've said, Azimio la Umoja -One Kenya
Stop.
Party.
Can I,
Yes.
Please clear the air.
for the record,
Yes.
clear the air
Yes.
for all and sundry,
Yes.
and especially sundry. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party.
Oh, coalition. Okay.
There you go. The term alliance does not appear anywhere in the name.
Congratulations, though, Professor. The last time you were here, you were just a supporter of Raila Odinga's presidential campaign. Now you have a position. What are you?
What am I? Oh my.
You sign off, I don't know, spokesperson.
Well, I occupy two positions in Mr. Odinga's campaign. I'm the spokesperson of the campaign, but I'm also the head of the campaign's think tank.
Okay. There are very many spokespersons around Raila Odinga. There's a communication secretary in the party, Philip Etale. There's a spokesperson in the party who's a secretary general, Edwin Sifuna. Then you go into Raila's office. There's a spokesperson called Dennis Onyango. Then you come into the presidential campaign. There's Dennis Onsarigo. Then there's Professor MAKAU MUTUA. And everybody is speaking. Who speaks for Raila?
Well, we have many messages to give. First of all, let me say we have many messages to give, but I do speak for the campaign, for the presidential campaign.
Okay.
Yes.
People have said, I mean, looking at the developments of the last 36 hours or so, PA and the leader of PA, the governor of Kilifi County, has said, I'm out of PA. Is said to have signed up with the Kenya Kwanza. The leader of Maendeleo Chapchap, the governor of Machakos, Dr. Alpha MUTUA, has left PA, has left...
Chapchap.
No, has left
Azimio.
this Azimio.
Azimio, yes.
Has joined Kenya Kwanza and has said, you know what, there is no transparency in Azimio. So some people are already saying Azimio in Azimia. What's the position?
Now, first of all, Eric, why are you recounting or regurgitating these facts with some zeal or some happiness? It's a matter of concern, obviously, for us when people have joined us, want to walk out. But I just want to allay the fears of my fellow Kenyans, and of course this distinguished panel. Distinguished being the key word. That in Azimio we are fine. We have no worries. what you see are simply attempts by various stakeholders within the coalition to find their footing. Let me also say, parenthetically, that there's political parties are anchored in the law, and they are governed by particular legal predicates. There's a deed of agreement that formed Azimio. That deed of agreement is not an empty letter. It's anchored in the laws of Kenya, and it's enforceable under the laws of Kenya. Once you join a political party, you subject yourself to its rules and regulations. The question of exiting a political party is not as simple as uttering the words, I exit, or posing for a picture with another party leader somewhere. The deed of agreement provides in black letter law that no political party within the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party can exit the political party 6 months prior to the elections and 3 months after the elections. So I think what you're looking at essentially political theatrics without any base in law. And I just want to emphasize that the registrar of political parties herself, Ms. Anne Deritu, indeed, I think last week, wrote to Dr. Alfred MUTUA and Chap, and also to Governor Kingi of PA, stating, again in black and white, that they cannot exit Azimio, and that if they want to exit Azimio, they should follow the procedures of the deed of agreement.
Okay. Two things, Prof, before Ndu comes in. One, you're saying it is there in black and white law that your deed of agreement stipulates no party that has joined can exit 6 months to an election or 3 months after an election.
Yes.
Now, these two parties wrote to the Register of Political Parties saying, we have not seen the deed that we signed. Are they aware of the content of this black letter law that you're talking about? Because they have said publicly that they signed the last page. They didn't sign the detail.
Well, I think this would be a colossal admission against interest. If you sign a document and you're a political party is supposed to be a machine with a battery of lawyers, political advisors and other people advising the political party. How can a political party sign an agreement that it has not read? I mean, it's beyond the pale, as far as I'm concerned. I was part of a group of lawyers and advisors who worked with our colleagues in the various political parties that constitute Azimio and their political leaders to put together that agreement. Many months of negotiations, many drafts of discussions. The final product itself was made available to everyone to scrutinize, to interrogate, and to think about, and then to sign. Do not forget also that the agreement was not simply signed by one official in a political party. Several officials, at least 2 officials, appended their signatures to the agreement. And these, we're not talking about puny officials. By puny, I mean, obviously subordinate. I mean, very senior officials, secretary generals, in some cases the chairs of the political parties. So it's really not believable or credible to anyone with a single brain cell to think that anyone can sign a deed of agreement of a political party on the cusp of perhaps our most important election.
Let's not forget Amazon Kingi is a lawyer.
Yeah. So you've taken the words out of my mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, single brain cell notwithstanding, the situation that would warrant or the situation that would catalyze this desire to leave seems to me to be a little bit more crucial than the black letter law. That even if there's something written down, there's a desire to leave, indicating that there's a problem at the center. Is there?
Well, you sound like you took my law classes. You know, I always talk about not just the black letter law, but the context and the crucible in which the law is anchored, because the law does not exist in a vacuum. So clearly, we are looking at you know, the legal provisions, but we are also looking at the surrounding political environment. I think the philosopher to my right, not left. You know, the philosopher to my right will understand that you know, Kenyan political parties often lack an anchor in ideology, and quite a few of them are briefcase political parties, and in which are used by ethnic kingpins to bargain for political power and positions. This is just fact, and I'm not stating something that is a secret. Secondly, we live in a country in which our political elites sometimes tend to act with impunity, more often than not. And where I think they tend to put their own personal interests over the national interest, or they tend to hide behind communities to bargain for their own positions. So with that as background, I think you can understand why some political leaders view the political processes of party formation and coalition building as simply another bargain, you know, for their own positioning. Because quite frankly, it just befuddles me why, for God's sake, anyone would enter into a marriage. And now I'm talking about a real marriage. Enter into a, you know, like, you know, an actual marriage between persons. And then 1 month later, you want out. I mean, and you start claiming that you never read the certificate of marriage, or that if you signed a prenuptial agreement, for somehow you signed the prenuptial agreement in a state of stupor. I mean, that is just not credible. I think what we should read into this is that some individuals enter into agreements intending to harvest something and are not anchored in ideals. Azimio is a political party that is led by Mr. Raila Odinga, who has a history in this country. Last time I was here, I told all of you that Mr. Odinga is running to liberate this country. He's not running to feather his own nest. He's not running to accumulate wealth. He's not running to give people an opportunity to steal. That is not why he's running. And if someone came to Azimio thinking that there's an opportunity to bargain for personal aggrandizement, then they're wrong.
So are you saying that upon realization that this was not going to happen, that is why we see folks fleeing the coup, as it were?
I don't think that you see folks fleeing the coup. I think you see attempts by individuals to bargain. Like I said before, they cannot flee, actually. There's political theatrics.
The coup is locked.
The coup is locked. There's political theatrics. You can flip your wings and so on, but you're in the coup. So I just want to say to you that these are attempts to bargain by Mr. MUTUA. If I was Mr. Ruto, to whom Mr. MUTUA, or Dr. MUTUA rather, purports to have gone, I would think that I was defrauded, because Dr. MUTUA defrauded Mr. Ruto by telling him that I've come to you and I brought my party with me. He brought nothing, because he has nothing to bring, because the political party Chap belongs to Azimio.
Was there some sense of discomfort between this, among these people who are seeking to leave? Like you said, maybe they came in here expecting something. There were negotiations, obviously there were negotiations. There were negotiations between ODM and Jubilee and the other parties that initially formed Azimio, including DAPK and the others. There were negotiations with those parties and the Azimio parties, KANU, Wiper and the others. There were expectations. It's political. Maybe you played them. You did not give them what you had promised. Just looking at it casually. So look at the Council of Azimio, all right? It is represented. The chair is the leader of Jubilee. It has Wiper in there. It has DAP Kenya in there. It has obviously ODM in there. Where is Chap? Where is PA? They are not a leg. Look at even the executive committee, the body that's right below the Council of Azimio. These parties are not represented. So it's like, everybody else now, Kenya has a more say in Azimio, and Chap are considered, what you said, puny.
Well, I was not referring to Chap as puny, but let me say this. Political parties in a coalition, of course, want to belong. And they want a sense of belonging. But a sense of belonging is about something we call citizenship. Having a stake in a thing, okay, and that stake being recognized, citizenship. The structures have leadership positions, We negotiated, obviously, for various structures within Azimio. There is the council itself, there is a NEC, the National Executive Council, there's a parliamentary group. There are all kinds of institutions within Azimio. And those institutions have leadership positions. We have 26 political parties within Azimio. Okay? Clearly, it is not possible for everyone to belong to the council. And it is not essential that everyone belongs to the council. You have a company here, for example, the KTN network, okay? Not all of you belong to its leadership.
The Standard Group has many shareholders, but not all shareholders are in the board.
Exactly, exactly correct. Exactly correct. So what is important is, what is the purpose of this political organ called Azimio? What does it seek to accomplish? What is important is not what position an individual leader holds within Azimio. It is what we are trying to do.
What have they been asking for? What has Dr. Alfred MUTUA been asking for in terms of relevance and position and, in Azimio? Similarly, what has Governor Kingi been asking for?
I would think that our brothers and sisters within Azimio are asking for this concept that I talked about, of belonging to the political party, to pursue certain ideals, so that come August the 9th, we can win the election. That they are asking for the right to participate in the election in a way in which they can feel that they are making a contribution to the election, that they are participating in the structures of Azimio in such a way that their views are heard, so that we can win the election, so that we can reform this country come August the 9th. And that they can be a part of government. That is what it's about. We are seeking political power, and we want them to be with us.
Professor, do you feel that your colleagues, the two Kenyans whom we've been referring to, share this ideal with you? See, they have one clear distinction and something that makes them the same. They're two-term governors. After being a governor for 2 terms, then what?
Yeah, so then I think you are sort of inching closer to the question that Eric was asking.
Yes.
And I was not evading Eric's question. I just
Yes.
want to say that. I was just coming to him in a roundabout way. But you've kind of hit the nail on the head. Yeah, there are many individuals who want a stake in the next government.
They want a definite stake.
People want a definite stake. They're human beings, you know. And second-term governors have a legitimate, claim, because if you are a politician and you have no ambition, personal ambition, then you don't know what you're doing. So I don't fault anyone for having a personal ambition, and that's fine. Okay, but first of all, when you go to a hunt, you must first of all make sure that you slay the animal before you can, get your share.
Professor, normally, if you hunted as a young person, I did, the parts that you could claim were determined, you knew. There are certain parts that certain people will get. It's not something you bargained. You probably would make it with the intestines. That is what would come to you, but it's still part of the animal.
Yeah, but the formation of government, as you know, is a kind of a flexible thing. So, for example, I don't imagine that either Governor Kingi or Dr. MUTUA would be left out of an Azimio government. I just don't think so. So the question, the question is not whether they would be part of government. Obviously, they'll be part of government. Perhaps the question would be, in what position they'll be part of government. And if you want to serve your country and you are a senior leader like they are, then and you have discussed, your interest in Azimio, which are self-evident. Then why are you worried? Because, let me just say this. It is very difficult for any political movement like Azimio to say that, you, Daktari, will become the Prime Minister. To cast that in stone. It's very difficult to do such a thing.
It is, because the things we are discussing, again, are not in a vacuum. There are certain things in which they are anchored. I mean, political negotiations and everything that goes into it, there's a give and take.
True.
You want something, fine. What do you have? What do you bring to the table?
Yes.
Why do I say this? Many people seek political office not to do any of the things that you've actually mentioned.
Yes.
More so those who've been in power, they do so for protection. You want to ensure you have a political position because you are clearly aware of the misdeeds of your past. And you're afraid that in the absence of a certain power structure that you are assured, your flank will be left wide open.
Yes. Yes. Now, I knew that you would stir the hornet's nest, and you've done so. Let me say this. Water seeks its own level. Okay? Water seeks its own level. So that, you will see birds of a feather flocking together. Okay? You will hardly see birds of different feathers in the same sort of forming a flight formation. Okay? So, we think that political leaders of different hue have come to Azimio. Some of them have lesser commitments to the values that animate Azimio than others. But we are a big tent, and our job is to expand that net of Kenyans who believe in those values. Okay, and so therefore, we'd like people to join us. Even some people whose records, public records, may not be what we want. We hope that, by joining us, they can, reform themselves and become, part of this journey of redeeming our country.
And find protection.
Not find protection. Because Mr. Odinga has been very clear, and I think yesterday he was very clear. What did he say? He said, I am going to jail you and throw away the key if you are corrupt. Okay? And I think every Kenyan knows that the penury under which we live, okay, the kind of difficult life that we have, and I'll tell you something. I grew up in Kitui as a young man, born there, went to early school there. And, it took 60 years for the road that connects Kitui, Kalundu town to my home, which is barely 1 kilometer away. I'm part of the township, to be tarmacked. Well, what kind of a country is that? That takes 60 years to tarmac 1 kilometer of road. I mean,
it's a progressive country.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is very simple, is that if we continue to do the same things again, we're going to screw ourselves forever. Okay, we don't want to do that, and we want a leader who's going to say enough is enough. The people of this country have suffered enough. I told the doctor here, sitting to my right again, that Mr. Odinga is running to liberate this country from this penury, from the 3 enemies that he always talks about: disease, poverty, and ignorance. They are simple, And so if people are coming to look for protection within Azimio under Mr. Odinga's wings to continue thieving and stealing, okay, and causing all kinds of damage to our economy and to our people, stealing the future of our children, they'll find no succor or support.
Taking a break at this point, 27 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio is Professor MAKAU MUTUA. He is a spokesperson of the Raila Odinga presidential campaign and also sits in the think tank of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition political party. I got it right.
You got it right.
This is The Situation Room.
The conversation continues. Eric Latif, Ndu, of course, CT Muga, and Kitui's finest, Dr. Professor MAKAU MUTUA. Prof, Kitui. So the governor is a leader of a political party.
Yes.
There's a leader of a political party called Wiper, also from Kitui. There's a spokesman of the coalition and the presidential campaign, Professor MAKAU MUTUA. Kitui is doing good things. However, if we look at just the entire Ukambani, there's a lot of, what shall we call this? Drama, disquiet, and
Discordance.
all. Discordance. First, Professor Kivutha Kibwana goes out and says, there's a talk here by the Azimio party that we're going to start doing zoning. First, I'm completely opposed to that. He's followed by the person who wants to be governor of Machakos, Nzioka Waita, who says the same thing. And then there's a whole conversation about whether Kalonzo is in or out, whether he should attend the interviews to be deputy president or not, whether he'll walk out with the entire Kamba community or not. What's happening in Ukambani?
Well, I think you should, first of all, celebrate something called the diversity of opinion.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The people of Ukambani have many brainwaves.
Okay.
They are individuals who think for themselves, and they've been thinking for themselves. And so we should not take these divergent views as something to really worry about. A democracy is about expressing one's feelings. And I think we should all be very sad if 2 of us are the same, because then one of us would not be necessary. So I think we first of all begin to celebrate that fact. Secondly, I think we all come from different political traditions. If you look at the individuals that you've talked about, you look at Mr. Musyoka, for example. Mr. Musyoka is a long-serving public official in this country, mostly under KANU, which he left, joined NAC, and then, of course, he joined Kibaki later to become a vice president. He has his own political pedigree, which has mostly been within the status quo. If you look at, Governor Ngilu and Governor Kibwana, you see them being germinated or being forged in the struggle against the KANU dictatorship and in the fight for the second liberation, multipartyism, and so on. So right there, you see 2 divergent political traditions. right? And then you have Mr. MUTUA, who is a late comer,
a beneficiary of all those struggles.
Of all those struggles, and quite frankly, perhaps more of a gadfly than the others. So when you have that kind of bed of roses, you're going to get divergent views, and that's what you've gotten. But let me tell you something. The people of Ukambani are not confused about what they want. And that is what is most important. I think we tend to focus a lot on leaders as opposed to the people. In 2013, the people of Ukambani mostly voted one way, over 80% for Mr. Odinga.
In which election?
2013.
2013.
Yes. In 2017, they did the same thing.
The percentages were lower.
No. Go look at your math.
2017?
In 2017, the actually was over 80% for Ukambani, for NASA. Very, very, very high. So the people of Ukambani have twice voted en masse for change in this country, and they have backed Mr. Odinga twice. And as we all know, the Supreme Court nullified one of those elections. The other one, of course, in 2013, we felt that should also have been nullified. But be that as it may, the people have voted for change. And as I've said before, some of the most important leaders of the second liberation come from that region. Dr. Willie Mutunga, the late Nzamba Kitonga, Kivula Kibwana, obviously, Ngilu, and so on. So there is this desire for change among those people.
Sure.
And I think what you are seeing is really a kind of a restiveness about, what might, how the leaders might lead, the population going forward, because they want change.
You said that it's not necessarily what we are seeing now, the little tiffs and the discordance back and forth, not necessarily what the people feel, but it's leaders who are, trying to maybe scuttle a process here or there. But the truth of the matter is that it has encapsulated everybody. And that's what everybody sees at that point. Now, if it's just optics playing out here, the reality then is that folks do feel, and maybe it's an opportunity to put those speculations to rest, but then the speculation is rife that this is just something to take this one Azimio's attention away from what could potentially be a savior when it then does come to voting in August.
Yeah,
that this could be sideshows that are actually taking away the attention of what is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, so let me say this. I mean, you make a good point. Let me say this. We do our own polling as well. And there's polling also that's been done by other, organizations, that do regular political polling. I think Mr. Odinga and Azimio are polling very well in Ukambani as we speak, even with these conversations among leaders that we are talking about, the divergent conversations. Okay, polling very well. It is true that there's a certain number of undecideds that are higher than we would like to see. But the people in the region have voted twice for a person they know. Okay, it really would be far to anyone's sort of, if you will, crystal ball, to think that they're going to vote for someone that they don't know, namely Mr. Ruto. They don't know that guy.
Was it a Kalonzo factor, though, in those last two elections?
No, I don't think it's a Kalonzo factor. I think it is the people have always wanted to vote for change. That part of the country is challenged by some things. As you know very well, there's a challenge of water, there's a challenge of other things that have happened there. People want those things addressed. And they believed and still believe that Mr. Odinga is a person who can address those kinds of challenges. There's a huge potential in the region, but they want a government that can address those issues. There's our pocketbook issues that the people there want addressed. So the other thing I just want to say, because I know you're going to bring it up, is this question of a running mate. Okay? I think that, Mr. Musyoka is a credible possible nominee. Yeah, he served as vice president before. He's a senior Kenyan, and I would say among the people who are being interviewed, is a credible nominee. But there are others who are equally credible. And I should say that our candidate, when he chooses who is going to be his running mate, he's going to look at a multiplicity of factors. You don't become a running mate because you are demanding to be a running mate. That is not how running mates are chosen.
Does his demand have any merit? Because he seems to have been pushing this conversation for the longest time and say, look, first of all, how can you ask me to sit for an interview? Secondly, you essentially chest thumping saying, do you know who I am? And then yesterday making this very bold statement saying, Ruto will win big if Raila snubs me. It's plastered on the front page of the Standard today. He skipped those interview panels and he said, look, you know what? I'm not necessarily going to Ruto. I'm not necessarily going to Kenya Kwanza, but if you don't pay attention to me, he will get all our votes.
First of all, let me say that Mr. Musyoka is appearing before the panel this morning for the interview. So it is not true that he's not going to be interviewed. As we speak, I think
he changed his mind overnight.
Changed his mind overnight?
I don't know whether he changed his mind overnight. I don't read the man's mind. What I can say is that, when people will make political statements, sometimes, we should just understand that those as political statements.
It's negotiation.
Negotiations.
We should not. This is a question of just simply trying to see what will give. Give a push here, give a shove there, see what's going to happen. So I would say that is what politicians do. But exactly about what they would do at the end of the day is an open question. So I would not take any one particular statement by any one person as determinative of what is in their minds. What I would say is that people are bargaining. Azimio is a young political party. Okay, it's a young political party.
People are looking for space for where they're going to fit.
People are trying to settle down, and so give them time for their feet to touch the ground.
Prof, there's something that's happening with the conversation around the running mates.
Yes.
It's moved from the personalities to regions, personalities representing regions. There are those that are saying, Mount Kenya, and they look at Peter Kenneth, Sabina, and Martha Karua. There are those that are saying, Western, they look at Oparanya. There's those that are saying Coast, and they look at Joho. As the senior most leader in Raila's inner circle and the think tank, you are Kamba. Do you champion for one of your own?
Well, first of all, let me say that you give me more accolades than I deserve. But who am I to reject, flowers and feathers that are bestowed upon me? I don't. I've never seen myself in one dimension. I'm a Kenyan. I'm a global citizen. I have my ethnicity in that part of the country. I champion many causes, but I'm driven primarily by merit and by the values that will make this country great. It is not my job, I don't see it as my job, to champion ethnic causes in this country. I champion Kenyan causes. I don't champion ethnic causes.
Well said, well put.
I never have.
Okay. We'll not push any further from that. I know City wants to ask you this question about the numbers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're in the think tank.
Yes.
And you're looking at what everybody is bringing and what is likely to be your winning formula. All right? What does Kalonzo bring to the table? And what does the combination, for example, just bring to the table?
Yeah, like I said before, I want to get away from the discussion about what Kalonzo, or rather, should I say Mr. Musyoka, you call him Kalonzo, I call him Mr. Musyoka,
Okay.
Brings to the table. I want to talk about what people as individuals in that part of the country bring to the table. And they bring, around 2 million votes, give or take, both there but also in their own diaspora. who are not, unconscious of the fact that in this country people tend to vote along ethnic lines. That's also a fact. I will not deny that. And most of the times they tend to follow, the so-called kingpins. But I would say that when we have looked at the voting patterns among the people in that region over the stretch of time, we've seen them vote for largely for their own interests. And so I like to talk about what they bring to the table, not what a leader brings to the table for them. And I said before, the past, in my view, is prorogue. They voted for Mr. Odinga twice. There is no reason to think that they will not do it again. The polling shows that they will. Our current polling shows that, even without Mr. Musyoka being named as a running mate. Yeah. The polling shows that, by the way.
The election just before the 2013, they voted for Kalonzo, for Mr. Musyoka, as you call him, in 2007.
I understand that. That election was a very divided election, as you recall. The different kingpins stood.
And which election do we have which isn't divided, Professor?
No, there are many that are divided, but I'm just saying that in that particular election, you had Mr. Odinga running, you had... you had Mr. Kibaki running, and then you had Mr. Kalonzo running, and so he was able to say that I am the one who represents you as the Kamba people. This time around, he will not be running as a presidential candidate, and so he cannot say that I am the one who is going to represent you. They have to look at where their interests will be best protected. Is it in Mr. Ruto's Kenya Kwanza, or is it in Azimio? Because Mr. Musyoka will not be a factor in the election.
So based on that, are people, and we're talking about blocks of people, then moving because there is a regional kingpin per se, or because they're looking for change? Is it necessary to have a kingpin to deliver the vote of a large group of people, or will they come on their own once they sense that the change is there?
It's been, I think it's been, as I think Eric, pointed out, and I think you pointed out many times, it's been a mixture of both, from time to time. I like to say, and this is not really a controversial point, that the era of the kingpin in Kenyan politics is about to end. Right now in central Kenya, I don't think that post-Kenyatta, you're going to see a kingpin in a traditional sense. I think if there's a person who might emerge in that region as, as kind of a spokesperson for the group, popularly known as Gema, it would be Martha Karua. I think she appears to be the one who has the legs to do it. But I don't think she'll be a traditional kingpin in that sense. In Ukambani, I think that, Mr. Musyoka's sort of position has been contested, as you've seen, by others. In a post-Odinga period in Nyanza, I don't see a kingpin there. I just don't. So I think that perhaps the only place where there will be a kingpin in this country is going to be in the Kalenjin Rift Valley with Mr. Ruto. But kingpins only make sense if there are many of them. You cannot be a kingpin by yourself in one group because you need other kingpins to negotiate with. So that his kinship will be a nullity. It will be a political nullity. And that's a good thing for the country. Yeah, where there are no kingpins, where people then will be able to decide, if not for themselves.
Final question, City. Ask it.
We always talk about numbers being the fundamental point at which political decisions are arrived at. Numbers at the ballot, numbers in parliament.
Yes. You are looking at me.
Yes, I'm asking the question now.
Yes.
I have something like 10 seconds to ask the question, and you have 10 seconds to respond.
To answer. Yeah.
Central Kenya, numbers, iffy, if we go by the nominations we saw. Ukambani, historically, numbers in parliament have always been predominant. These are facts that were brought to my attention this morning by my brother here, Eric Latif.
Yeah, he's a disruptor, this one.
Yes. So how does that play when it comes to decision making as to who should have what in Azimio?
I think I should have mentioned earlier to your earlier questions, but yours more so, that when you bargain for a piece of the animal at the end of the line, you know, the question is always being asked, what do you bring to the table?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why we like to think about government after the elections. What do different people bring to the table? So that we know exactly what their political worth is. I should say that what we want to do is to get numbers in parliament and to get large numbers so that we can govern once we are elected. That's very, very important. The pudding, or the kind of the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, really, and that will be determined by the numbers. In Mount Kenya, for example, I should say this, in the Mount Kenya region, I think the issue of the running mate will perhaps become very important, as many people have themselves prophesied on this question. I'm not the first one to prophesy this. My sister here just did it. So that's very important. So I'd say stay tuned.
Professor, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll keep seeking your brain, because you're in the think tank. And you come in here, you give us leakage of what's happening on that side.
Did I leak anything?
Well,
A lot. Professor MAKAU MUTUA, spokesperson for the Raila Odinga presidential campaign and also in the think tank of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party, here to tell us exactly what's happening in the party, what their thinking is, and the ups and downs that we see in the news. Asante sana for joining us. Come again soon.
Thank you so much. Such a distinguished panel of interrogators.
Asante.